안녕하세요. 오늘은 재미있는 영상이 있어서 소개해 드릴까 합니다. 8년 전 영상이지만 그 내용이 지금도 유효하기 때문인데요. 바로 실리콘밸리의 대표적 벤처 투자자 팀 드레이퍼의 강연입니다. 그는 2014년 미국 연방보안관청 경매에서 약 3만 비트코인을 낙찰받으며 크립토 신봉자로 주목받았죠. 이후 2018년 비트코인이 1만 달러에 이를 것이라 예측했고 실제로 이 가격대에 도달했습니다. 드레이퍼는 블록체인이 분산된 완전한 원장으로 보고 금융과 데이터 거버넌스를 민주화할 기술이라 설명합니다. 그의 놀라운 예측력은 테슬라, 바이두 등으로 설명 가능하겠지만 이 영상에서 그는 블록체인에 대한 자신의 인사이트를 주로 설명할 것입니다. 그럼 시작하겠습니다.
감사합니다. Thank you very much for having me here in Korea. I really love Korea. My father came and fought in the war in Korea and fought for freedom here, and he is always very proud when he comes and hears about all the huge success Korea has, where you're a shiny, beautiful city in Seoul, you have the #1 education in the world, you have some of the most advanced technology in the world. So what I thought I'd talk about is one particular technology that is potentially transforming the world in a big way. And that is the blockchain. That is Bitcoin. I'm wearing a Bitcoin tie, if you hadn't noticed. Bitcoin has already started to transform our world. And it has not only can you move from country to country and use the same currency, you can send money much easier than you could from one country to another. It's a better store of value, and you no longer require the banker. Something I do when I'm in the venture capital business is I look for industries that have gotten kind of fat and lazy, and they're providing bad service at a high cost. It's usually because those companies inside that industry have gotten very old and they don't care about their customer anymore. And I look for entrepreneurs who are taking new technologies and applying them to that old industry. And when the internet came along, this same sort of thing happened. What happened was media was always the same as it had been before. Entertainment was all controlled by a few people. The way we did research was all done always the same way. And then the internet came along, and it flattened the whole thing. So we all became able to do media. We all became, in effect, democratized in entertainment. The internet was just one big wave of new technology that opened up all of these new ways of thinking and new ways of creating a new business. I think the same kind of thing is happening now. It's really fun. I got to tell a quick story. I met this guy and he said, "Yes, I'm a billionaire from Korea. I've been playing this game. I think it was called Legends or something." And he said, "Yeah, I've been playing this game and it's really fun. It's a really interesting game." And I said, "That's great." And he said, "Yeah, about half of Korea is playing this game." And then he said, "Yeah, and my son's birthday was the other day." And I said, "Oh, yeah?" And he said, "Yeah, and I got him a sword." And I said, "Oh, you got him a sword. Interesting weapon, whatever." And he goes, "No, it was a sword that was just pixels on the screen." And I thought, oh, wow. And he said, "Yeah, my son really wanted it, and I had to pay $50 for it." And I said, "Oh, my God, $50. And then he said, "Yeah, there's a whole new economy here." And I looked down and I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, "Well, they have money in this economy, too." And it got me thinking that all of a sudden there is going to be a virtual world, and there are going to be virtual currencies, and we're all going to be a part of this world with virtual currencies. So I kept my eye on that, and I was watching. And that was when Bitcoin showed up. I thought, this is great, and I backed something called CoinLab, and I bought a whole bunch of Bitcoin, and that was when it was at $6 a Bitcoin. And then the Mt. Gox guys stole my Bitcoin. And I thought, oh, well, that's the end of Bitcoin, because 2/3 of the Bitcoin was in Mt. Gox at that time. And Bitcoin dropped about 10% that day on that news. 10%. And I started to think, whoa, people really need this. And this is where I discovered that it was banking the unbanked, it was insuring the uninsured, it was helping people participate in the world economy that couldn't do it before. If you have 1,000 won and you try to set up a bank account with your 1,000 won, the banker pushes you away because it costs them about 200,000 won just to regulate your account. So all of a sudden there's this whole new economy that is provided for people who are not able to participate in the current world economy. So these unbanked. This is a major change in the world. So just think about that. First of all, this is a currency that is not regulated by any government. It's fiat. You know, I kind of look at this now as Bitcoin is to fiat currency as democracy is to dictatorship. You actually have an opportunity now to democratize yet another part of our world. Just as the internet democratized media, communications, information, gaming, Bitcoin is democratizing all these other industries. And think about the industries that it's going to go after. It's those ones that are highly regulated today. It's those industries that are getting to be those oligopolies that are not thinking about their customer. They're providing a bad service at a high cost. So what are those? Okay, banking, venture capital. I always pick on my own industry because we provide a bad service at a high cost. Investment banking, so all the finance industries, insurance, real estate, healthcare, all of these are ripe for the picking. And we have a new technology that's going to come and make those industries better. Okay, they're only calling me an investment guru because after I lost all that Bitcoin and then I saw that it was going to be here for good, I had an opportunity to buy a whole bunch of Bitcoin in the Silk Road auction, and I bought it, and I said, okay, by 2018, and at that time the price was fluctuating a lot, but generally it was between 200 and 700. I said, by 2018, Bitcoin will be worth 10,000. And so everybody's thinking, oh my gosh, it's like 5,700 now. So they're kind of thinking, oh, he's an investment guru. It's called dumb luck. So, but I looked at that and I took it very seriously and I thought, okay, what do you think about when you invest? You're thinking about the future. You're thinking about what's the world going to look like. So I came up with a top 10 list of some out there predictions that are going to be right up there with Bitcoin at 10,000 in 2018. Okay, these predictions are for 2035 or 2040 in those years, maybe 2040. Okay, Japan and Estonia and those that accept cryptocurrencies will be the wealthiest countries in the world per capita. Number 9, people will laugh at you if you try to buy coffee with fiat currency. Number 8, there will be more people traveling in the air than by car. Number 7, your health will be remotely monitored and recommended foods and drug dosages will come automatically. Number 6, AR and VR. This is augmented reality and virtual reality. Right now it's these things that cover your face completely and you can be educated that way, you can be entertained that way. It's kind of a fun thing to do. If you haven't tried it, it's definitely worth trying. Fiat will be smaller than crypto. By that time, I think Bitcoin will be worth between $100,000 and $1 million per Bitcoin. So you heard it here first. So in 2040, come to me and say, why did you tell me that? I bet my fortune on Bitcoin, whatever. And number 3, people will be truly global. Local governments will become more important than federal and state governments. There will be a basic income for everyone. I think that actually might happen throughout the world. Kind of an interesting thing to think about. And number 2, there will be an acceleration in space travel to make it so that it's less time to get around in space. And some of us will be on Mars or on the moon. And I'll make one last pitch for Draper University. I started a school. It was kind of a crazy idea, start a school. And I was kind of challenging the status quo. I was kind of thinking, wow, we're paying so much and getting so little. All these students are suffering because they're overpaying their loans, and then they come out and they don't have any real practical knowledge. They're not ready to go challenge the status quo. They need to be retrained. A lot of things are happening. So I thought, well, why don't I create an entrepreneurial school? And then I thought, well, wait, no, to be an entrepreneur, you've got to be a hero. You've got to be willing to go up against all of those people who are working for that established business, that established industry. You've got to be willing to stand alone, be embarrassed, lose face, and get it back the next day. And so I started this school.
이어진 Q&A 시간, 그는 당시 머스크의 투자자로 유명했습니다. 그가 풀어주는 그만의 투자 기준, 2017년 전에 이미 예견한 테슬라의 성공, 그리고 스페이스 X에 대한 견해까지 다시 그의 이야기로 돌아가 보겠습니다.
Why do I think Bitcoin what? Oh, no. I actually think Bitcoin might be the second or third biggest cryptocurrency in the year 2040. I think other things will come. Just as in the internet, Google was the 26th search engine. I remember our discussion when we were looking to fund Google. We didn't do it because we had already funded 6 search engines by that time. So we thought, oh, you know, they're behind. Turns out they had a clever name and they were good search engines. So, but we backed Baidu as a result, so that worked out. No, so I actually think, you know, Bitcoin was the first of these cryptocurrencies, and it is the biggest by quite a bit. But then there are others that have come along that are competing with it, and some say they're better with smart contracts. And by the way, smart contracts might be able to eliminate the need for having so many lawyers, because we can make a smart contract and then that's the deal. It's done. There is no gray area.
Just to build on your statement about looking for investment criteria, you said sociological transformation. What other criteria do you use when you look for a company? And I have another question. You mentioned that once you realize Bitcoin is going to stick around for a long time, you start to make that investment. So what was it that kind of triggered that this cryptocurrency is going to be around for a long time?
Okay, so the first one I'll hit first, and that was Bitcoin only dropped by 10%, even though I thought it was just gone. I realized there was a real need for it. As I studied Bitcoin and started to look deep into it, I realized that it's going to transform many, many things. Every piece, every way a bank is operated, now that can all be done with a Bitcoin. So I thought, wow, this is so big. And then I did a little calculation. I said, there are 2 calculations that I've done. One is, how much fiat currency is there around the world today? And it's like $100 trillion. And like today, what's the value of all the Bitcoin? It's about 1/1000th of that. And then the other calculation I made was the value of a network is the square of the number of nodes on that network. And I've watched as more and more people are added to the Bitcoin network, and the price continues to go up because the value of the network continues to improve because of that. So that's the second part of your question. The first part of your question is, what am I looking for to invest in? Okay, I used to just knock on doors and say, oh, hey, you've got a new software company, tell me about it. But now I get many, many deals come in every day. And the way I look at them is I say, is the market big enough? And is it a market where there's an oligopoly, like 1 or 2 to 5 major players that are just making a fortune and providing really bad service? You know, the one that always comes to my mind is pharma, but also the investment banks and the accounting firms and the legal firms, whatever. They don't always provide the best value, and they charge high prices. Or maybe even Samsung and Apple. Maybe there's an opportunity there down the road. So then if they make that hurdle, then I say, is this unique? Does it have something really special to it? And is it crazy unique, or is it like really insane unique? Then I probably won't do it. If it's unique, but it seems to be like what this person has dedicated their life to, it's where they're headed, and it's a unique new spin on it, then I get very interested. And then when I meet the people, it's all about how much enthusiasm do they have. I always ask this one question. I always go, why are you doing this? And I do it that way. Why are you doing this? Why are you starting this business? Because most people will then back off and say, well, it's because my friend thought it was a good idea and I wanted to make money and blah, blah, blah. But the true entrepreneur, that's the question that has it burst out of his chest or her chest. They say, because my boss was doing it all wrong, the customer wanted this, I had to do it. It was just in me. I just had to. And this is something I've known all my life. I've been doing it all my life. I have to do this, and I'll do it with you, or I'll do it with somebody else. And so if I see that, then it's like, here's my money. And it turns out that, about 40% of the time that works. But we lose about 60% of our investments, because I invest at the early stage, and we make a lot of mistakes. But the question I ask that a lot of venture capitalists don't ask is, what if this works? A lot of them ask the question, all the questions like, oh, there's a big risk here. What if they do this to them? What happens? I ask, what if it works? How big does this get? How extraordinary could this be? I mean, maybe we only get 40% that work and maybe only 10% that really work. But if they really work, then I know that that's a big enough market, and I'm going to make my investors a lot of money.
You're an early investor of all Elon Musk company, Tesla, SpaceX, and SolarCity. What was the key factor when you were investing into those companies? And one more thing, Tesla, as I know, just fired hundreds of people. And what do you think about the future of Tesla?
That's great. Okay, so I backed Elon because, well, first, Tesla, we backed a guy named Martin Eberhard. He was before Elon, and he was an extraordinary entrepreneur. And I actually went for a ride with this other guy, Ian Wright. He took me for a ride in his electric car, and I thought electric cars were just for tree huggers and golfers. And I got into this car, and he took off like a rocket, and then it stopped on a dime. And I thought, whoa, so you don't have to make a big sacrifice to be an electric car. In fact, this may be better than anything we've got on the road. And so I started studying the electric car market, and that's how I ran into Martin Eberhard, and then we backed him. and he was about out of business. And Elon came in and said, I will put down $10 million. I'm going to run it. I know exactly where we want to take this. Go. And everybody was thrilled, and it was great to have him supporting the company. SpaceX is really Elon's passion. If you talk to Elon, he's thinking of two things. One is he believes the world's getting, hot, and something's got to be done about it. And so the first thing he does is he creates electric cars, and he gets his cousins working on Solar City, making solar panels. And then he says, but just in case, let's get off the planet. And so he says, we're going to Mars. And everybody thinks, that guy's crazy. Going to Mars? Really? And but think about it. Okay, 95% of the people think he's crazy. And then the other 5% are the best engineers in the world who want to go work for him and go, how would we get to Mars? And think that thing through. And so he's very shrewd. He also used a word that Robin Lee and Nicholas Zenstrom used when he pitched us. He used the word delight our customer. If you delight your customer, everything else comes together. And it's not just like satisfy the customer or just like give the customer something. And that was, for those three of my biggest successes, they use the word delight. So I would suggest that you all think in terms of using the word delight when you refer to your customers. Oh, future Tesla. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, they have layoffs. By the way, they're really good at that. They do layoffs. Rather than individual firings, they do layoffs. It's very clever because in the U.S., if you do individual firings, people take it personally, and there are a lot of lawsuits, and that creates a lot of problems. But what he does is he sort of waits until it's been built up, and then he says, okay, we're going to let these people go. So anyway, Tesla, I think they're great. I mean, the cars are amazing. So I think they're going to keep selling.
드레이퍼의 메시지를 한 줄로 정리해 보자면 블록체인은 돈과 데이터 그리고 정부의 역할까지 다시 설계할 기술이라는 것입니다. 2017년에 예측이 모두 정답일 순 없겠죠. 그러나 그가 던진 질문들, 국경 없는 화폐, 스마트컨트랙트, 지금 벌어지고 있는 일입니다. 이제 우리는 그의 남은 예측과 현실을 나란히 놓고 확인해 보면 좋을 것 같습니다. 끝까지 시청해 주셔서
감사합니다. Thank you very much. This is really wonderful.